What a day I have had so far. Oh my. I've been sitting here thinking about Kruleboyz for 6 hours. Wow, thanks to all my patrons. You guys be sure to hit me up. Work on some lists together. Check out TTS maybe. Thanks Wiberian for the art channel. Channel art. Oh my god, my brain's toast. Baron a dice. Buy some dice. Bam, that's nothing. Okay, here are some lists. Okay. Like I've been talking about these for so long I don't even know like where to begin. Okay, so what I did here was I came up and I wrote, I think I need to take my headphones off for this too. I've had my headphones on for way too long. Oh my god, it's really weird to... Okay, so I've written 4 lists in different kind of styles, but all, I feel like we're all heading down the same vein. I need to turn my AC on too, I'm just like dying here. Oh, shut this door. Sorry, I'm just kind of exhausted. Best kind of bread is your opinion. Thank you. Okay, so we have 4 lists. Let's walk over sort of what each list is about first. Hey, chat, let me know if I sound bad or anything, if it's too fanny or whatever. So we have a scumdre list. We have a list that has Gobsprakk in it. There's a double sludge raker list, and then I have this kind of weird, like it's a dead sneaky subfaction list. That's kind of like MSU, and I'll talk about this one last. Okay. Okay, so the first list, your general is Swamp Boss Scumdre, and you take a reinforced unit of Hobgrots to act as the bodyguard. This gives anything that comes into combat range with Scumdre -1 attacks. So essentially what you're doing is you're going to take this reinforced unit of Hobgrots, stick it in front of Scumdre, and you're going to absorb some charge at some point. You're going to march the Swamp Boss Scumdre into the middle of the map somewhere, and he's going to sit there. He's essentially your anvil because people are afraid of him. They're afraid of the -1 to hits, the strike last, right? They're afraid of all those debuffs, and then the slapback because Hobgrots get crit mortals if they're wholly within 12 of Swamp Boss Scumdre. So it means that for 460 points, you're doing what a sludge raker beast and gut rippers do for 200 more points. It's less damage overall, but it's still like a lot of damage for a really cheap points. So that's like one thing. Another thing too, because the honor guard is your Hobgrots, all your opponents that have like +1 against honor guard and +1 against the general, they are going to have a hard time coming into this because this is the only option. They can't kill a different unit in another unit in the general's regiment because there are no other units in the general's regiment. So that's kind of the idea. We're like kind of an anvil. Come kill us if you want your tactic, I guess, but good luck with that. Even 20 Hobgrots, right? Like it's 20 wounds. Anyway, and there's also a Mork's Eye Pebble too to give them a 5-up ward. So anyway, the next regiment is a Vulture Boss with Slippery Scumbag. What Slippery Scumbag says is that on a 3-up, you can immediately retreat. I don't think you have to take the mortal wounds. I can't remember if you give mortal, like a D3 to the enemy or not. Probably not. I guess I have it up like right here. We're also taking Swamp Shroud, by the way. So when we're wholly within 3 of terrain, we're invisible outside of 12. So that's going to be good. Doesn't look like it does any mortal wounds or anything, right? But what it's going to let us do is it's going to let him move his, I think, 12 inches. He's pretty fast. And then charge. And then on a 3-up, like, retreat. And then pile in somewhere else. So he can do, like, he's going to fly over screens, essentially, and attack things in the back on our turn. And on their turn, they're going to charge us, right? And then we can just, like, on a 3-up, dip out. I think it works in any combat phase. Any combat phase. We're going off Goonhammer here, of course. Cool. And then with that Vulture Boss in his regiment, we have a unit of Gut Rippers, and then we have a unit of Monster Killers, and then a reinforced unit of Bull Boys. All of these can be teleported. These are all teleport options. The Hobgrots are not, but they don't have to go anywhere because they're going to sit in front of Sludge Raker or in front of Scumdre. So you can teleport all 3 of these units. We did some math, and it's pretty easy to see, but Monster Killers and Gut Rippers do the same amount of damage. They both have 21 attacks, and they have the same profile. And Monster Killers actually deal more damage against monsters, right? They get an additional +1 rend against monsters, so they're a little bit better against monsters. The disadvantage that Monster-Killers has is that they are only 14 wounds. It's 7 times 3, while a unit of Gut Rip is 20 wounds. So 14 wounds versus 20 wounds, that's a 6 wound difference. That's a pretty significant difference, right? Gut Rippers almost have 50% more wounds than Monster-Killers do, but I'm really thinking, oh, this list isn't, but this list is a little bit different than what I thought it was. Anyway. But Monster-Killers are definitely worth it. I think that if you're going to take units of 10 Gut Rippers, I think that one of them should be a Monster-Killers because they're 50 points cheaper. 50 points is a lot of points. So, like using multiple Monster-Killers, I think is going to be viable. They're not unique, right? You can't reinforce them, but like MSU Monster-Killers is better than MSU Boltboyz. Maybe, right? Like I said, there is a disadvantage where you lose some wounds. Okay, and then a reinforced unit of Boltboyz, so we can teleport these. Their job is going to be primarily taking out screens. Then we have a Swamp Collar Shaman in a 3rd regiment with Mork's Eye Pebble. This gives a 5-up ward wholly within 12. So this Swamp Collar Shaman is going to stand right next to this Swamp Boss Scumdre. Stay outside of 3 inches of the front screen, and then pop a 5-up ward if our opponent tries to come in and kill one of these things. Remember, this is denying a battle tactic. If we can keep this alive for the turn that they pick it, right, then we can deny them a battle tactic. We can also park this in the middle of the map if we want to, and we can attempt to deny seize the center. And our Vulture Boss might do a good job of denying take their flanks. Cool. And then we have a Kill Bow and Boltboyz. I think the reason that we ended up with a Kill Bow is just from math. We were just looking at math. But the Kill Bow here, this is certainly a flex spot. You could take this Kill Bow and you could use it for something different. It could be it's not enough for a unit of Gut Rippers, you'll see, but it might be enough for like a unit of another Monster-Killers unit or something else. What else is in that is in that range? 160 points. But this is your flex spot, this Kill Bow. I definitely think 2 times 6 Boltboyz is good. 3 Shamans I think is good. This last Shaman could be, this can't be this color. This last Shaman could definitely be another flexible point. Right, so here you have 280 points where you could mix it up and do something different, but I think the rest of it is pretty solid, and like where the artifacts are and everything, all the enhancements. So 280 points. So yeah, I mean it could be, yep. It's kind of a weird math number. I think that's because it's not enough for like Monster-Killers and Gut Rippers, for example. So I think that's why we ended up with a Kill Bow in this list, and it's cool, right? Like you're gonna plant the Kill Bow in the middle of the map at the very beginning. You are gonna we're going to talk about our manifestation lore because we're going to take Kronspine. The reason that we're taking Kronspine is because we have 3+1 casters, so Kronspine goes off on a 7 now. Kronspine is a little bit slow when we on our turn, right? But I think he has to be wholly within 12, I think. But against other manifestations, he has a 3d6 charge. So that means that from the Swamp Kala, he has to be wholly within 12. Right, so that's 12 inches away from the Swamp Kala, and then 3d6 is 10, so that's 22 inches. So if your opponent puts out any kind of manifestation that's like, 22 inches or closer to you, then you're going to have 3 Swamp Kala Shamans that are going to be spread out across the battlefield, and wherever, because you can teleport, you can sneak Swamp Kalas, right, because they have the infantry keyword and they're less than 10 models, so you can kind of like move these Swamp Kalas around. There's no reason for them to be tied to units anymore. They can kind of be juggled around the battlefield, right? And helping anyway, but the Swamp Kalas, if they can throw a Kronspine and get it at your opponent with that +1 to cast, and like positionally I think it's going to be pretty strong. Some people are going to be relying on their manifestations, right? And so not only are we 3+1 unbinds for our opponent, and as I said too, we can also move things around so we can sort of get within unbind range. They're not going to be able to hide from us, but then we're also going to be like anti-manifestation as well. So if people are like planning on bringing wizards and they're planning on casting manifestations to do their tricks, like Soul Scream Bridge or whatever, we're gonna have kind of the answer to that, and it's gonna be nasty. We're also kind of like we're hammer light, and so throwing in something that is a little bit extra damage I think is cool. So we're casting Mystic Shield, right? That we have that spell. It's not called Mystic Shield, but we're casting Mystic Shield. We're casting Choking Mist every single turn, and then we're going to cast Kronspine. And if Kronspine is out, or we don't need to cast it, then we can cast the Black Pit. And that's not ideal, right? But, us casting Kronspine and them killing Kronspine every turn does indeed sound ideal. So that's my thinking. If I wasn't going to take Kronspine, I would take Primal Energy, right? We're just throwing out more damage. But manifestations, I think, are good and strong. But there's other ones too, like Shackles has its place, and I'm sure that there's other options. The manifestations are going to be something that we're going to have to explore together. Oh, how cute. Moving on to the next list, we have a Gobsprakk list. I was, chanting this morning, ding dong, the Gob is dead. That Gobsprakk is not really playable because he's so bloody expensive. But the more I thought about him, the more I realized that what Gobsprakk is actually enabling us to do is to have 2 casts and low drops. One thing I didn't mention before, but in this previous scumdre list, we are 5 drops. The reason is because we're going to play a scumdre or a snatcher boss on sludge raker. We're going to play some sludge raker. Vulture boss is really, really strong. We're going to take some kind of vulture boss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we definitely need at least 1 swamp calla shaman. But when you only have 1 swamp calla shaman and you're only 1 cast, I'm not liking it. I think we're going to need a lot more casts. Just in general, like if people are casting manifestations, we need to be able to get rid of them without attacking them. If we're just attacking them to get rid of them, I think it's going to be bad. So in Kruleboyz, because we have these +1 casters, I think we can sort of dominate that game and either win that manifestation race ourselves, or we can certainly deny our opponent from being able to do too much. We're going to get beaten out by some of the super heavy magic armies, but what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? And this list is pretty anti-monster too. But once you're 4 drops, you might as well be 5, right? Once you're 4 drops, I think you're already sort of saying to yourself like, okay, we're going to be going second most of the time, so might as well lean into it. I think most lists are going to try to be 3 drops if they can, and then we'll see how the meta evolves. But at least that's my thinking at this time. I think 4 drops might be the worst drops to be in the game. I think it might be better to be 5 drops, because then at least you can have the advantage of bringing an extra hero and an extra wizard, extra cast, whatever it is you want to bring, right? And then you're just probably going second most of the time anyway. So you're sort of hedging that, right? It's like, fine, I'm 5, right? But at least I get to have my 3 wizards to cast my spells, right? So what Gobsprakk does is he eliminates that. He says, well, we can be 3 drops because we have 2 drops or 2 casts now in 1 drop only. At least that's my thinking at this point, never having actually played a game of 4th edition Age of Sigmar. At least that's how I'm thinking about it this morning. So then we have Boltboyz, right, with Gobsprakk, and they are the honor guard and they have priority target. These guys are going to be really hard to kill. Gobsprakk is also going to be pretty hard to kill. And Gobsprakk just destroys monsters, guys. Gobsprakk just destroys monsters. Don't forget, he has a spell that when you cast it, you roll a number of dice equal to their health, and every 4 up is a mortal wound. So against Gordrakk, he deals 10 mortal wounds. It's pretty good. He's also going to be pretty good at flying around trying to scoop out the little foot heroes. And if this is a magic heavy meta again, and people are casting lots and lots of manifestations, even though Gobsprakk doesn't necessarily like deal his D6 with primal dice all the time, he still does D3 mortals. And, it seems like things are a little bit more susceptible to dying, so D3 mortals a couple of times, or if he can, like, sort of swing in and grab stuff, or if it's Marathi, right, like, suddenly he's actually kind of decent. So I think he's worth trying and worth putting on the table, even for his really elevated cast point, because, like, anything that's 2 casts now means you can be 1 fewer drops. If you're, like, the interaction between drops, casts, heroes has shifted significantly. So I feel like 2 cast wizards are going to be good. And we can't take bodyguard because Gobsprack's a general, so we have to put priority target +1 to hit, +1 to wound against things in our opponent's general's regiment, including the general. So that seems okay. Like, we can maybe, if their general is a foot hero, we can maybe snipe them off or something with +1 to hit, +1 to wound. So still not the worst thing in the world. We have Vulture Boss with Slippery Scumbag and with Mork's Eye Pebble, because he is the only one in this list that can actually take enhancements. So besides Mork's Eye Pebble, there's not much to take unless you take a Shaman and you want to take the Swamp Staff, right? But we don't have one in this list because we're running Gobsprakk, so he can, the idea here too, there's a little bit of a trick where you can, on a 3-up, retreat in combat and move somewhere else, and then pop the Mork's Eye Pebble, giving an AoE 5-up ward before combat actually starts. So he can kind of show up with some other units wherever he needs to be. Like, he could swoop in with Gobsprakk and the 2 of them could have a 5-up ward and kill things, or he could swoop in with Scumdre and kill things, or maybe swoop in with a Monster Killer and help kill things. So, and then we have Swamp Boss Scumdre with our reinforced unit of Hobgrods. We talked about this in the previous list. No bodyguard this time though, right? We're losing that. We're being fewer drops, but we're trading out a couple things. Another unit of 6 Boltboys, and then 10 Gutrippers. So this previous list that we looked at had 20 Hobgrots, 10 Gutrippers, and a Monster Killer, right? That's kind of what it had for like infantry, and now we have a double Monster Killer with 20 Hobgrots and 10 Gutrippers. So we're adding in a Monster Killer into this list. We're fewer drops, we're more frontline meat. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And then we're taking Primal Energy for this one because we can't afford to cast Conspine. When I finish this video, I'll probably do Iron Jaws, so maybe like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes longer, I'd say, before I jump into Iron Jaws. This video is already 15 minutes long. I'm trying to get through it as quickly as I can. And then we wrote a double Sludge Raker list. So this has the Swamp Boss Scumdre, 260 with the Hobgrot Bodyguard, same thing as before. And then we have Vulture Boss with Slippery Scumbag, just as before, with 2 units of Monster Killers and a reinforced unit of Boltboys. So same kind of idea here. We took a Swamp Collar Shaman with a unit of Boltboys. Because again, we 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, we're 4 drops in this list. We're not 5 drops, we're 4 drops. Scumdre, Vulture Boss, Swamp Collar, Orcside Pebble. Yep, so Snatcher Boss, and then it's Monster Killers. We're spamming Monster Killers. We have 3 Monster Killers and Hobgrots, and then 2 times 6 Boltboys. So the idea with this list is that we have these 2 big bricks that are moving forward. Monster Killers, because they do as much damage as Gutrippers do, they will get the same buff from the Snatcher Boss as Gutrippers would. So we're just sort of playing off that a little bit more, and Venom Encrusted Weapons gets a little bit weaker because we don't have a big brick. No, we do. We still have a big brick of Hobgrots to do Venom Encrusted Weapons on. So this is more like a Hobgrot brick, and then we have 3 units of Monster Killers teleporting around. Again, they're just cheap, right? They're just cheap. And then we're taking Kronspine here. No, we're not. We're taking Primal Energy here. You know what? We could probably take Kronspine just with our +1 caster. Ooh. And then the last list that we have is kind of weird. It's a dead sneaky list. So this is the other sub-faction, where the other battle formation, where we can use the sneaky sneak-in twice per turn instead of once per turn. So what we're doing is we're just spamming Hobgrots, Gutrippers. Like these 2 Hobgrot and Gutripper units are reinforced. We can't sneak them, but we are sneaking a unit of Hobgrots, 2 units of Monster Killers, and some units of Boltboys, and then Hobgrots and Gutrippers are just going to run up the middle of the table. So what we're losing here, we have only 2 casts, but we are 2 drops. We are 2 drops. And what are we really losing? Like, what are we losing compared to this other Gobsprakk list? Scumdre, right? Instead of taking a big slappy monster that can be the center of the battlefield, we're taking just a bunch of other, like, small stuff instead, right? We're taking more shooters. We're taking more, like, Monster Killers and, you know, reinforced unit of Gutrippers. So the idea that I had with this list is you always pick to go first, and because you get to use your sneak twice, on your turn what you do is you teleport over a unit of 10 Hobgrots and Boltboys that are behind them, and you put it over in their side, and then on your second turn, you teleport 2 units of Monster Killers over there. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, guess what? I have 4 units off in your corner where you don't want stuff to be, or like camped out right in front of you, like as a little like forward post, right? And then when you come in, the idea is that we're just going to outvalue our opponent here. The Vulture Boss is fast, and he's going to swoop up the battlefield and help take like an aggressive forward position. And then Gobsprakk is going to do the same thing, swooping around some other side, taking an aggressive forward position. And we're being really orky here, and we're just trying to pin our opponent into their deployment zone as best as we can and try to get into their juicy, meaty stuff. I don't know how viable this list is, but I thought I would share it because it's kind of different. Right, it's kind of different. So let me know what you think. How much do you value casts? How much do you value drops? Those 2 things are kind of what I'm running into right now. If we don't value casts, right, then we can do like something totally different. So I think that if you don't have some casts, you're gonna get buried under endless or under manifestations personally. But besides that, like, subscribe, wow.